The scream tears through the apartment, and Emily Carter said, "Please, not in front of her." Mark Carter's jaw locks as the door rattles from his grip. Lily clings to Emily's waist, breath hiccuping. A distant siren threads the air like a warning. Emily tastes copper fear and stale coffee. Mark said, "You did this," and slams the door so hard the frame shudders. Glass on a console trembles, then settles like a verdict. Emily steadies Lily and whispers, "I've got you," while her heart kicks against her ribs. The hallway hum of the city leaks in, cold and impersonal. A neighbor's TV laughs too loud, cruel in its timing. Emily feels the room tilt with memory and shame. She scans the floor for pieces that can cut small feet. Sirens grow louder, then fade, as if the world blinked. Mark's anger lingers like smoke, sour and heavy. Emily said, "We're okay," though the words scrape raw. Lily nods, trusting, and that trust burns brightest. Emily closes her eyes and counts to 5, then 10, then the next minute she has to survive. The silence after the slam feels louder than the fight, and Emily said, "Let's breathe, sweet pea," counting for both of them. Lily's heartbeat drums against her palm. The walls hold old photos that now feel like witnesses. A cartoon jingle leaks from a neighbor's door and makes everything wrong. Emily stands, legs unsteady but moving. She scans the room for hazards like a medic on instinct. Her phone buzzes with messages she cannot face. She said, "We'll clean," then Coco, trying to anchor panic to routine. A breeze threads through the ajar door, cool and metallic. She closes it softly, as if noise might shatter Lily. The window shows a watery city that never pauses. Emily tastes dust and rain, and decides to keep moving. She gathers glass, and gathers courage in the same motion. Sirens swell then fade, leaving a coppery quiet that stings. Emily opens the window a crack and said, "See, the sounds are leaving us." Lily nods, small fingers counting raindrops. Emily remembers nights when hope was a budget line. She stacks envelopes by due date, making order where none exists. The hallway smells like wet wool and floor cleaner. A text from Mark pops up and sits like a threat. She deletes it without opening, pulse loud in her ears. She said, "Story time after Coco," and the promise steadies her. The clock hand clicks like footsteps receding. A bus sighs at the curb, then pulls away. Emily dims the lamp and lets shadows soften the edges. She feels the ache of fear and the relief of motion in one breath. The apartment shrinks to a circle of lamplight, and Emily reads from a dog-eared book. Lily leans closer, eyelids heavy, and Emily said, "Heroes get scared too." Her voice steadies, word by word. The clock marks each second she keeps them safe. She thinks of rent, of school lunches, of the lawyer she cannot afford. Courage arrives disguised as next steps. She tucks a blanket under Lily's chin and kisses her hair. Down the hall, the doorframe shows a hairline crack. Emily presses it with her thumb, then lets it go. She whispers, "We'll fix what breaks," and the promise lands in her chest. Tonight is a small island in rough water. She writes a list on a sticky note and feels the ground hold. When Lily sleeps, Emily sits at the kitchen table and lets the night be honest. She said, "Tomorrow I call for help," tasting the risk of asking. She drafts an email to a legal clinic and deletes it twice. She pictures Mark's sneer and feels anger sharpen into resolve. The fridge hum is a choir for the brave. She opens the window wider and inhales wet pavement. She remembers the day she chose love over fear and chooses again. The city's glow looks almost kind through rain. She whispers, "I will not break," and the words steady her bones. She writes a budget, a plan, a promise. The sirens are gone now, but their echo is fuel. She closes the laptop and touches the door, guarding what matters. Emily's alarm buzzes at 5:30 a.m., and she rolls out of bed like someone preparing for battle. Lily mumbles and buries her face in the pillow, and Emily said, 5 more minutes. Okay, kiddo. The coffee pot sputters and hisses, filling the kitchen with bitter steam. She scrolls her emails with one hand, her other packing lunch with mechanical precision. Rent reminders glare from the screen, and she swallows a sigh. She said, "We'll make it work," though her chest feels like a locked box. Outside, buses growl, and the city exhales into morning. Lily drags her blanket to the table, hair tangled like wild vines. Emily braids it quickly, fingers steady despite the storm in her mind. She buckles Lily's shoes, grabs her bag and breathes the mantra, "Keep moving no matter how heavy." The cafe hums with morning chatter, and Emily sits opposite her oldest friend, Rachel Myers. Rachel said, "You look like you've been carrying the world again." Emily forces a small smile, sipping burnt coffee that tastes like routine. Rachel's bracelets jingle as she pushes a muffin toward her. She said, "Eat, you'll need it," eyes scanning Emily with practiced concern. Emily admits nothing, but her silence says too much. She stares at the rain streaking the glass and murmurs, "Sometimes I wonder if I'm strong enough." Rachel leans in and replies, "You are, even when you doubt it." The cafe's warmth fights the storm outside, but Emily still feels the chill of what waits beyond this table. The envelope lies heavy in Emily's mailbox, stark legal lettering pressing into her chest. She said, "Not today," but her hand still trembles as she opens it. Custody papers, black and white, slicing through the thin thread of calm. Her pulse quickens, and the hallway tilts as if the floor shifted. Lily's laughter echoes from inside, oblivious and bright, a cruel contrast. Emily presses the papers flat on the counter, reading words that question her worth as a mother. Her throat closes, her stomach knots, but she whispers, "You'll never take her from me." The radiator groans, the house creaks, and the world feels hostile. She steadies herself with one deep breath, clutching the paper like both weapon and wound. Afternoon sunlight spills into the park, brief reprieve from gray skies. Lily swings high, squealing, "Higher, Mama." Emily laughs, chest loosening with the sound. She pushes the swing gently, holding on to that fleeting joy. Around them, parents chat, but Emily's eyes scan for shadows of worry. She lets herself forget the papers for a moment, inhaling grass and damp bark. Lily hops off and runs to pick a yellow flower, tucking it into Emily's pocket. She said, "This is for luck," and Emily's throat tightens. She crouches and replies, "It's perfect just like you." The sun warms her face, and for a heartbeat, survival feels like living. She files this memory away like armor for darker days. Evening brings Rachel back with a casserole in hand, her smile stretched but eyes hiding something. Emily said, "You didn't have to," setting it on the counter. Rachel avoids her gaze, fussing with foil. The kitchen hums with silence that feels staged. Emily narrows her eyes, sensing a weight between them. Rachel finally mutters, "There's something you should know." The words hang unfinished, like a storm cloud waiting to burst. Emily grips the counter, stomach sinking, and said, "Not tonight." But Rachel's eyes flicker with guilt, and Emily knows a secret is alive between them. Lily's footsteps patter in, breaking the tension with innocence. Emily pastes on a smile, but inside, she braces for betrayal she cannot yet name. Emily sat at the lawyer's waiting room, papers clutched like a shield. Mark's lies echoed in her mind, each one a dagger meant to break her resolve. She said, "He won't win," though her voice cracked. A receptionist tapped keys with indifference, the sound too loud in her ears. Emily remembered the venom in Mark's last text, his threats woven with charm only strangers believe. She wanted to scream, but instead, she inhaled sharp air. Lily's drawing peeked from her bag, a stick family holding hands. Emily whispered, "You're my reason," fingers trembling. The world felt like a stage where Mark owned the script, but Emily knew she could improvise. The clock ticked in cruel rhythm, a countdown to war she never chose but must fight. At work, Emily's computer screen blinked with warnings about deadlines. Her boss leaned against the cubicle, arms crossed, tone sharp as he said, "We can't afford distractions." She forced a nod, the weight of unsaid truths anchoring her. Every keystroke felt like survival, each email a battle to keep her place. The hum of fluorescent lights mocked her exhaustion. She thought of groceries, daycare, lawyers, and bills stacked like bricks on her chest. When the screen froze, she slammed the desk too hard, drawing stares. She whispered, "Not now," clutching her temples. Her boss sighed and muttered, "Get it together." Shame burned, but beneath it, defiance stirred. She thought, "This job is fragile, but I am not." Rachel's apartment smelled of lavender, but the air was heavy with secrets. Emily confronted her, voice steady as she said, "What are you hiding?" Rachel's hands shook as she poured tea, her eyes darting away. The steam curled like lies rising between them. Emily felt betrayal creeping in, the foundation of friendship cracking. Rachel whispered, "Mark came to me first," and the words stung like acid. Emily's breath caught, her chest hollowing. She wanted to believe it was nothing, but Rachel's silence screamed guilt. Emily said, "You should have told me," her voice breaking. Trust unraveled, thin threads snapping in the quiet kitchen. Rachel reached out, but Emily pulled back, her heart splintering under the weight of another betrayal. Lily curled on the couch, coloring quietly while Emily paced. Her small voice broke the silence. "Mommy, are we in trouble?" Emily froze, guilt flooding in. She knelt, smoothing Lily's curls, and said, "You don't need to worry. That's my job." Lily's eyes searched hers, wise and fragile, and Emily saw the cost of every battle. She hugged her tighter, whispering promises she wasn't sure she could keep. Outside, thunder rolled, echoing the storm inside their walls. Lily said, "As long as we're together, it's okay." Tears welled, but Emily smiled through them. She realized Lily wasn't just her reason to fight. She was her compass. The room softened, lit only by trust between them. Emily sat alone, memories rushing back like floodwater. Mark's voice from years ago whispered, "You'll never survive without me." She clenched her fists, nails biting skin, fighting the ghost of his control. Images of nights spent waiting for him, of lies swallowed, replayed cruelly. She saw herself younger, smaller, too forgiving. "Now," she muttered. "Never again," each word a blade cutting chains. The past was alive in shadows, but she refused to bow. She poured old photos into a box, shutting the lid like closing a wound. She whispered to the quiet, "You don't own me." A weight lifted, fragile but real. For the first time, the memory lost its grip, and she felt the faint spark of freedom. The courtroom buzzed with whispers, wood-paneled walls carrying every sound like thunder. Emily stood at the table, palms damp against the polished surface. Mark smirked from across the room, his lawyer whispering strategies in his ear. Emily said, "I will not be silent," though her voice barely rose above the shuffle of papers. Judge's gavel struck once, demanding order, and the noise stilled. Emily swallowed hard, eyes flicking to Lily's photo tucked inside her folder, a secret shield. Her stomach twisted, fear and fury tangling, but she straightened her spine. The words waiting in her chest felt like both fire and ash. She told herself, "This fight is not about me, it is about her." Mark's lawyer rose, voice sharp and calculated, listing every perceived failure Emily carried. Emily clenched her jaw, nails biting her palm. Mark leaned back, satisfied, his smile a weapon. She wanted to shout, but instead she whispered, "You don't know me," letting the words slip like armor beneath her breath. Each accusation felt like glass cutting old wounds open, but Emily stood straighter. She locked her gaze on the judge, refusing to flinch. Her heart thundered, but beneath it burned a fire unwilling to die. The air in the room pressed down heavy, but she lifted her chin, choosing defiance over despair. The social worker adjusted her glasses, voice cool and professional, reading a report aloud. Emily's breath caught as her ability to provide stability was questioned in cold phrases. She felt stripped bare under fluorescent light. She whispered, "I am more than numbers," but the words dissolved into the wood grain. Mark smirked, pretending sympathy, his eyes glinting with victory. Emily gripped the table, rage simmering just below her skin. Every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every moment of love felt erased in that moment. Her body trembled, but she stayed upright. The silence after the report was heavier than the words themselves. She exhaled and told herself, "This is where strength must begin." In the courthouse bathroom, Emily leaned over the sink, gripping porcelain so hard her knuckles whitened. Her reflection showed exhaustion, carved deep. She whispered, "Maybe I can't do this," tears pressing against her eyes. The hum of flickering fluorescent bulbs buzzed above like mocking laughter. She thought of Lily's voice asking if they were safe, and guilt twisted in her chest. She splashed cold water on her face, watching droplets run like fragile rivers down her cheeks. She inhaled sharply, whispering, "Stand up, Emily, stand up." Her body shook, but slowly her spine straightened, and her eyes hardened. She left the mirror with trembling steps, but a new edge in her resolve. Back in the courtroom, Rachel caught Emily's eye from the back row. Her friend's silent nod steadied the air around her. Rachel had said earlier, "Fight harder," and those words now echoed like a drumbeat. Emily stood to speak, legs trembling, but voice gathering power. She said, "I have fought for my child every single day. I will not stop now." The courtroom hushed, even Mark's smirk faltering for a flicker. Her words filled the space, weaving truth and pain into something undeniable. Emily's chest rose, as if breathing for the first time in years. For once, she didn't feel small. She felt unbreakable, forged in fire, and willing to stand until the last word was hers. Emily sat in her apartment staring at the knock on the door before answering. When it opened, her estranged brother Daniel stood there, face lined with time and regret. She froze, breath catching, as he whispered, "I couldn't stay away anymore." Emily's heart slammed against her ribs, anger mixing with longing. She said, "Why now?" Daniel's eyes searched hers, heavy with guilt. Lily peeked from behind Emily, whispering, "Who is he?" Emily pressed her daughter close, unsure of what this meant. Daniel shifted uneasily, voice low, "I'm here to help if you'll let me." Memories of abandonment flashed in Emily's mind, but so did the ache of lost family. The moment stretched, fragile, as trust wavered on the edge of collapse. They sat at the kitchen table, silence thicker than words. Emily's fingers tapped against her mug, while Daniel stared at the floor. Finally, he said, "I've been watching from a distance, waiting for the right time." Emily's jaw tightened, fury building. She hissed, "You abandoned us." Daniel flinched, shoulders collapsing. Lily wandered in with a toy, eyes darting between them, sensing tension she couldn't name. Emily's throat burned, but Daniel pressed on. "I know I failed you, but I want to make it right." The rain outside drummed steady, echoing Emily's pounding pulse. Trust felt impossible, yet his eyes held something raw, something almost true. Emily whispered, "I don't know if I can believe you." Daniel leaned forward, eyes dark with urgency. He said, "Mark is working with people who could ruin you." Emily stiffened, the words cutting sharper than she expected. Her hands trembled as she asked, "How do you know this?" Daniel avoided her gaze, muttering, "I've seen the deals. I kept records." Emily's chest tightened, anger battling relief. She said, "Why should I trust your secrets?" Daniel's silence was answer enough. Lily tugged Emily's sleeve, whispering, "Mommy, are we okay?" Emily hugged her daughter close, whispering, "Always." Daniel's confession hung heavy in the air, the truth dripping like poison, daring Emily to drink it. Emily retreated to the bedroom, heart racing. She closed the door behind her, muttering, "Why does help always come with shadows?" She sat on the edge of the bed, staring at Lily's sleeping form. Daniel's words echoed, tangled in memory and fear. She remembered the nights she cried alone, wondering where family had gone. Now he was back, offering salvation dipped in secrets. She whispered, "Do I risk everything for what he offers?" The rain softened, and moonlight spilled through the blinds, washing her in silver. She touched Lily's curls and whispered, "I'll do anything to protect you, even if it breaks me. Her reflection in the mirror stared back, a woman on the edge of surrender and resolve. Morning crept in with pale light, the storm finally passed. Emily stood at the kitchen counter, Daniel across from her, eyes hopeful but guarded. She said, "If I take your help, I need the truth, no more lies." Daniel nodded, voice steady, "You'll have it, even if it hurts." Emily's chest tightened, her heart screaming no, but her mind whispering yes. Lily patted in with sleepy eyes, climbing into her mother's lap. Emily kissed her hair, whispering, "We'll be okay." She looked at Daniel and finally said, "I'll take the risk." Silence followed, but in it was something fragile, something like hope. The choice had been made, and the path ahead was both salvation and danger. The courtroom was alive with tension as Emily rose, her voice steady, though her legs trembled. Mark's lawyer sneered, presenting evidence meant to break her spirit. Emily said, "Every day I've fought to give my daughter's safety." Gasps rippled through the gallery as she held up the documents Daniel had given her. Mark's face paled, his smirk cracking into anger. The judge leaned forward, eyes sharp, listening. Emily's heart pounded, fear and fire tangled in her chest. She thought, this is the moment, no retreat. Her palms shook, but her gaze didn't falter. The silence after her words pressed heavy, but Emily knew she had shifted the ground beneath them. Emily's words cracked Mark's mask, and whispers filled the courtroom. His lawyer scrambled, stammering objections. Mark slammed his hand on the table, shouting, "She's lying!" The judge's gavel struck sharply, demanding order. Emily clenched her fists, heat rising through her body, but she stayed silent, letting truth hang in the air. She remembered every sacrifice, every long night with Lily, every cruel message Mark had sent. Her body buzzed with adrenaline, but her voice when she finally spoke was calm. She said, "I have nothing left to lose, except her. And I won't let that happen." The courtroom froze, eyes on her, as strength radiated from her fragile frame. The confrontation escalated when Mark rose, pointing at Emily with venom. He spat, "You'll ruin her life," his voice cracking under rage. Emily stepped forward, fire in her eyes, and said, "I'm saving her from you." The gallery buzzed with murmurs, tension boiling over. Emily felt years of shame fall away, replaced with unshakable clarity. Her hands no longer trembled. Mark's face twisted with desperation, his lies unraveling like frayed rope. The judge's gaze grew colder, weighing every word. Emily's heart thundered, but she stood taller, her daughter's future her only anchor. In that instant, the battle became more than legal. It became survival. Emily's resolve shattered when Lily was called into the discussion. The small girl clutched her backpack, eyes wide, as the courtroom hushed. Emily whispered, "Stay strong, baby," her chest breaking. Lily's small voice filled the room, trembling but clear. "I want to be with Mommy." Tears pressed behind Emily's eyes, but she held them back, gripping the table so hard her knuckles whitened. Mark's jaw tightened, his anger barely contained. The judge nodded, scribbling notes with deliberate calm. Emily exhaled a breath she didn't know she was holding, Lily's words cutting sharper than any argument. In that fragile voice, the truth had been spoken. The final moment came as Emily stood once more, voice breaking but strong. She said, "I may not have wealth, but I have given her love, and love is the only truth that endures." The courtroom fell silent, Mark's fury unraveling into defeat. The judge's gaze was unflinching, his pen poised above the verdict. Emily's body trembled with exhaustion, but her heart swelled with defiance and hope. She thought of Lily's laugh, her tiny arms around her neck, and felt strength flood back in. The silence stretched until it broke with the sound of the gavel, the decision not yet spoken, but already felt. Emily's eyes closed, and for a moment she knew she had won in spirit. The gavel struck, and the judge's voice carried the weight of finality. Emily closed her eyes, the words, "Custody granted," echoing like a hymn. Mark's head dropped, defeat finally cracking his pride. Emily's chest rose with shaky breaths, her body trembling from the storm she had endured. Daniel's nod from the back row steadied her heart. She whispered, "We did it, baby," knowing Lily's world had been secured. The courtroom no longer felt like a prison but a battlefield where she had survived. Outside the courthouse, Emily inhaled the cool evening air. The storm had passed, leaving streets slick with rain but glowing under city lights. She crouched to Lily's level, holding her close as she said, "We're free." Lily laughed softly, her small arms wrapping around Emily's neck. Daniel stepped forward, hesitant but hopeful, offering a quiet, "You're not alone anymore." Emily studied his face, searching for truth, then nodded. For the first time in years, the weight on her chest eased, replaced by a fragile kind of peace. That night, Emily sat alone at the kitchen table, the apartment silent except for the hum of the fridge. Papers lay scattered, but the fight was done. She whispered, "It's over," feeling both relief and emptiness. The scars would not vanish, but she had survived. She thought of Rachel, of Daniel, of all who had walked through her storm. Her reflection in the window looked tired but unbroken. She folded Lily's drawings into a small stack, smiling through tears. Victory was not triumph, it was survival, stitched together with love. Emily slipped into Lily's room, the child curled under blankets, breathing softly. She knelt beside the bed, brushing curls from her daughter's forehead. She whispered, "You're safe now," kissing her temple. The room glowed faintly from the nightlight, its warmth chasing away the day's shadows. Emily lingered, watching Lily's small chest rise and fall, a rhythm that healed the cracks in her heart. For the first time in years she felt stillness, a fragile silence unbroken by fear. She placed her hand gently on the blanket, promising, "We'll never let go." The apartment was quiet, bathed in the soft hush of night. Emily stood by the window, city lights stretching endless beyond the glass. She placed a hand on Lily's door, whispering, "We're stronger now." She sat beside her daughter's bed, smile breaking through exhaustion, a real one at last. The scars remained, but they no longer defined her. Emily whispered, "We'll never stop fighting," a vow etched into her bones. She closed her eyes, leaning into peace she hadn't felt in years. The future was uncertain, but in that moment, hope lived in the quiet.